As with most navies in the 1900s, Italy had entered the century with a collection of protected cruisers whose speed varied, but was mostly comparable with battleships by the mid-1910s. The advent of new technologies and the renewed focus on the Austro-Hungarian Empire led to the need to find out what the Austro-Hungarian fleet might do, and to find that out fast given the short distances between the respective ports. And the Kaiserliche und Königliche Kriegsmarine had already started building their own fast scout cruiser, the Admiral Spaun, a 3,500-ton ship capable of 27 knots with a battery of, approximately speaking, 4-inch guns. Although seeing the need for an actual fleet scouting screen with several ships, the Regia Marina wanted to play things a bit carefully. Small cruisers were, relatively speaking, quick to build, and the speed of technological advancement meant they saw benefit in building a single ship first to test the concept, and then follow up with an improved series, which they would eventually, at least in theory in terms of improvement, do. As such, the new ship, Quarto, would be the first cruiser in the Regia Marina to use steam turbines. In this case, 4 of them driving 4 screws with 25,000 shaft horsepower to reach a top speed of 28 knots on a displacement of just under 3,300 tons, although on trial she would hit almost 29 knots, using a mixture of oil and coal boilers. Armour consisted of 1.5 inches of protective deck armour, which made her overall slightly smaller, slightly faster, but slightly less well protected than the Admiral Spaun. However, she aimed to make up for this deficiency with her armament, carrying half a dozen single 4.7-inch guns in pairs, 2 side by side forward, a similar pair aft atop a platform superstructure, and another pair a little bit forward of the aftmost pair, but now mounted at deck level, with half a dozen single 3-inch guns, 3 per side, abreast the funnels. Final armament was a pair of torpedo tubes mounted right aft. Early photos show these on deck, but they were soon relocated below the waterline. Although this gave her a decent amount of all-round firepower against destroyers and small cruisers, by far her heaviest salvo, 4 of the 4.7-inch guns and both torpedo tubes, were covering the aft arc. This was, however, on purpose, as it was anticipated that she would find the enemy, and then she would have to make tracks to escape them, particularly to escape something like the Admiral Spaun, and any relatives, at which stage being able to send a large volume of shells and torpedoes downrange while retreating made a lot of sense. She was laid down in late 1909, launched in summer 1911, and commissioned in early 1912, with 2 related, although as it turned out less successful derivatives being laid down shortly before her launch in early 1911. As the most capable scouting vessel in the Regia Marina, she was quickly assigned to the Premier Division of the Regia Marina, providing her scouting services to the dreadnought Dante Alighieri, and soon also to the Cavours as they began to commission in 1914. As part of the front line of the blockade enacted on the Austro-Hungarian Navy after Italy entered World War I, Quarto was often the target of enemy torpedoes, but her high speed and shallow draft kept her zipping around untroubled by anything more exciting than a near miss. Her only major action was the Battle of Durazzo, in which the combined Italian, French and British force managed to drive off an Austro-Hungarian force, sinking 2 destroyers in the process, although the bulk of the enemy ships did manage to escape. Following World War I, she remained in service, unlike many other scout cruisers, partially due to Italy not really having many other cruisers to utilise outside of a handful of war prizes and some older armoured cruisers. Thus, she toured the world on a mixture of goodwill visits and station duty in Italian overseas possessions. She was still an active part of the fleet when the Spanish Civil War broke out, but in summer 1938 she suffered a boiler explosion which caused more damage than it was thought economically worth repairing, and so she was decommissioned the following year and used as a combination target and trial ship for Italian Special Forces. The intention was to use a combination of dummy charges or reduced charges, depending on what was being tested, so that they'd still have a test bed at the end of the day. But a test using explosive-laden motorboats, even with small charges, did enough damage to the ship, which after all lacked any torpedo defense system, to cause her to sink. However, since she sank in shallow water, the Regia Marina decided to continue to use what was above the waterline as a live fire target for shells, at least for a bit, with the wreck eventually being scrapped when there wasn't enough of a target left above the waterline to be of much use.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a comment or suggestion for a ship to review, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to comment on the pinned post for dry dock questions.